Great to have you here with us this Friday morning. Well, imagine taking your beloved dog out to do an errand, only to return and find out the car and the dog are now missing. So you track down the police and you ask them for help. But then they find out that the car and the dog are at Six Nations in Caledonia. And you're basically told you're kind of on your own. Well, that is exactly what happened to our next guest who joins us now. It's Tori Monroe. And I thank you for coming to us this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. Nice to see you.
And the happiest part of the story, which we'll start on, is the fact that Everett the dog, who is sitting right beside you, is in fact safe and sound. But for a number of hours, you had no idea if in fact he was safe. Take us back to that night of what happened.
Yes, so November the 7th, I had to run to Walmart to do a couple of errands and came out of the store about 20 minutes later. The dog was in the back of my Cadillac Escalade. And came out of the store, and the car and the dog are missing.
What went through your mind? Okay, go ahead.
So I immediately called 911.
Can you hear us? Go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, so I called 911, and as I'm on the line to the 911 operator, I remembered that the dog was wearing his Garmin GPS tracker on his collar. So my husband has an app on his iPhone to track the dog. So he was out of the country on business. So I called him to get the dog's location, which was Taylor Road and Fifth Line near Caledonia. And the 911 operator said that was out of Hamilton jurisdiction. So they connected me to the OPP, who said they would find a vehicle because we were giving them the exact GPS location as the vehicle was going through parts of the reserve.
Right, and so you talked to the police, and I think it's safe to say they weren't exactly proactive in wanting to help you get your dog Everett back.
Well, initially, we didn't know who we were connected to. The 911 operator just connected us to what they said was the OPP, who now later I understand just automatically connected us to the Six Nations dispatcher.
Okay, so inevitably your son ended up having to go into this area by himself with, I guess, reserve police. How much of a risk did he take that night?
Oh, it was absolutely terrifying. Once we were finally told, frantic phone calls back and forth to the OPP. The dog tracker had sent us a signal that the battery was dying because 4 hours had elapsed since the truck was stolen. So once we were told that the police weren't going in because it was too hostile, I was hysterical for my son's safety. But he was determined, and what were we supposed to do? Just walk away and let the dog stay in there? Really, we had no choice. He decided he was going to go in and find the dog using the tracker app. And finally, reluctantly, the Six Nations police met up with him and walked in, him with a flashlight and his iPhone, and them with assault rifles, and discovered our vehicle as well as two others in a wooded area, and the dog cowering in the back of the vehicle.
Well, thank God the animal was alive and well, and thankfully your son got out. But I think in the days that follow, and you look back on this, I think it's safe to say that generally when you go to the police, you feel like you can get help. But it appears that that's not the same if you're dealing with, the situation in Caledonia.
Yeah, it was an eye-opener for sure. It was my first dealing with ever having to call the police. So the feeling of abandonment and disbelief is incredible.
I think it's safe to say, I'm a dog owner too, and when someone asked, well, would you do the same thing as what that young man did? I said, in a heartbeat, I would. Would I be terrified? Absolutely. But your son basically put his life on the line having to do this on his own without police protection. And I have to think, as a parent, it must anger you.
Oh, I was hysterical. I was terrified for his safety, for sure. But I totally understand why he did what he did. I would have done the same thing if I had been able to get out there.
I think a lot of people across this country, because we're not seeing the standoff and all the visuals coming out of Caledonia, I think most people just assume it's life back to normal for that community. But I get the sense that it's very much still a community somewhat being held hostage.
Oh, absolutely. I would equate it to kind of a group of terrorists that, the police are afraid to enter parts of that territory.
Have they had any kind of follow-up conversation with you? Have you been able to gauge any kind of feedback? I mean, did they explain after the fact why they wouldn't step in to help?
I contacted them afterwards to try and find out, because at one point we were told the vehicle had been cited, but apparently that was just a miscommunication on the part of the dispatcher. They haven't been very forthcoming with any information. No usable prints were recovered from the vehicle. So that's been it. And then I did go ahead and file a report with the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, which they declined to investigate the actions of the OPP or the Six Nations Police.
So are you going to file any kind of complaint? Because there are clearly two sets of rules. It depends on who, where you live in that area. Are you going to pursue any kind of further action?
Well, I haven't been able to get any answers as to who governs the Six Nations Police. Even though they train at OPP facilities, apparently they don't fall under that jurisdiction either. So,
and Tori, quickly before I have to let you go, do you have any concerns about your safety now? Do you worry, since you've been speaking out, that you might be targeted?
Absolutely. I was very hesitant to do this. And I am very concerned for our safety, given the fact that I know now. Mm-hmm. But I feel it really is in the best public interest to garner some attention to this situation.
Well, I very much appreciate you taking that risk. And of course, I would ask that you keep in touch with us and please let us know what happens, because I think a lot of people across this country are very interested in seeing the results. And of course, we wish Everett the best as well.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Tori.